Hello, Math Warriors! Are you ready to win a math battle for today? Of course, in order for you to enjoy your learning journey, first, I want you to be reminded of the following rules. 1. Prepare a pen and paper to take down some notes. Number 2. Don't be scared to try activities and exercises. You can surely do it. 3. If you have questions or suggestions, you can directly send me a message. Remember, your opinion matters. 4. Oops! Safety first! Find the perfect spot to watch this video lesson. Make sure that it is well lighted, take care of your eyes, well ventilated, be comfortable, and implement safety protocols whenever needed. Number 5. Lastly, smile, relax, and enjoy. Math Warriors. Let the battle begin! You will be given a code in which numbers correspond to letters in the alphabet to form the words needed to be unlocked. Example, if the code is 15, we just have to count the 15th letter in the alphabet to decode. Let's try. If the code is 13, 1, 20, 8, what will be the hidden word? 13 corresponds to M, 1 to A, 20 to T, and 8 to H. So, the word is math. Here are the codes to decode. The correct answers are: number 1, congruent; number 2, postulate; number 3, corresponding.
Wow! You have beat the Star Warrior batch! Welcome to the next level, math learners!
Let's define the hidden words. Congruent has the symbol, which means equal in size and same or similar in shape. Postulate is a statement that does not need to be proven or assumed to be true. And lastly, corresponding means equivalent, or in Tagalog, katumbas. For today, you will be learning about congruence postulates. How can we understand this better? Aha! Let's ask help from our English subject. English says that when words have the same meanings, they are called synonyms. Example, pretty, beautiful; big, huge. Try it. Match the words. Smart is congruent or synonymous to the word intelligent. Rich is congruent or synonymous to the word wealthy. Admit is congruent or synonymous to the word confess. Did you get it right? Good job! If this concept is used in English as synonyms in math, when the sides or angles have the same measure or size, we call it congruent. Or there is congruence. Look at this. But what about postulate? What's the concept? Aha! Let's ask help from AP subject. Araling Panlipunan teach us about hyperinflation. We will know that there is a hyperinflation, there is a price hike every hour, every day, and every week. The consecutive price hike we have experienced on gasoline these past days can be considered hyperinflation. Obviously, this will also influence the prices of our other products and services we avail. To know or accept this conclusion, we do not need proving because it is already obvious. In our math lesson for today, when the idea is already obvious or assumed to be true, we no longer need to prove it. This is called postulate. Therefore, congruence postulates are when two triangles are obviously or logically the same in shape and equal in size. I think you are now ready to illustrate the SAS, ASA, and SSS Congruence Postulates. There are 3 congruence postulates. Observe the pictures.
In our previous discussion, we have discussed about congruent triangles. We say that two triangles are congruent if their corresponding parts are congruent. And what are these corresponding parts? To show, we consider the two triangles below. We have the first triangle PAP and the second triangle SEL. Their corresponding parts are the 3 corresponding sides and the 3 corresponding angles. Well, of course, we need to show that 6 corresponding parts of these triangles must be congruent first before we can conclude congruency between the two triangles PAP and SEL. So, we start with congruent sides. PA, which corresponds to side SE on the second triangle, must be congruent. So, let's assume that these two sides measures 5 cm. So we say that PA corresponds to SE. And on the second side, we have AP and EL. So we assume again congruency between the two sides or corresponding sides. So we write AP is congruent to EL. And the last pair of side is PA corresponds to SL. These sides must be congruent. So we assume that both measures 7 cm. And let's move on to corresponding angles now. So we need to show that angle A and angle E, which are corresponding angles between the two triangles, must be congruent. So we note using Roman numeral number 1. But regardless of the Roman numerals that you need to or you want to use, as long as they are congruent. So we move on to the second corresponding angle, which is angle E and L. And those angles must be congruent. So we note that P is congruent to L or angle P is congruent to angle L. Then to the last pair of angle, we have angle P and angle S. And we need to denote them congruent. So we need to use the Roman numeral number 3. And we have P is congruent to S or angle P is congruent to angle S. And we can now conclude that the two triangles ATP or PAT is congruent to triangle ELS or SEL. When two triangles are congruent, actually they are exactly the same. So that when we try to overlap them, each corresponding parts, or should I say the corresponding sides and corresponding angles, must be on exact position, just like this one. And now, for this lesson, we are actually talking about the postulates. So we start with ASA Congruent Postulate. And what are these postulates all about? These postulates are actually the enough or the minimum standard when we are showing congruent or congruency between two triangles. In short, we can consider them as shortcut. Instead of showing the 6 corresponding parts, we can actually show at least 3 corresponding parts which are congruent, and then we can already conclude that the two triangles are congruent without showing the rest of the congruent or corresponding parts. Let's start with ASA. According to this postulate, all we have to do is to show that two corresponding angles in an included side which are congruent, and then we can already conclude without showing the rest of the congruent parts that the triangles are congruent. So let's consider this one. Again, let's consider the two triangles PAT and SEL. So according to ASA, we also we only need to show two corresponding angles and included side. By the way, that's the reason behind this, the name of this postulate. ASA corresponds to angle included side angle. So that makes sense, no? It's ASA. So let's say, for example, let's assume that AT, which corresponds to EL, have the same measure. So let's just assume that these two sides measures 6 cm. So we denote here below that AT is congruent to EL, or side AT is congruent to side EL. Another is that we note that angle A and angle E, which are corresponding to the two triangles, are congruent. So by putting a tick mark or Roman numeral number 1, we denote that the two angles are congruent. So we write angle A is congruent to angle E. Again, is that angle P is corresponds to angle L, and we note congruency between the two angles. So now we write angle T is congruent to angle L. So if you notice now, we satisfy the pattern angle, side, angle. Note that A and E are pairs of angles which are congruent. AT and EL. This is very important, no? AT and EL are congruent side, but this must be included. When we say included, it must be between the two angles. So we cannot consider AP and SE. We can also consider PT and SL. The only included side here, since the two given congruent angles are A, E, and P and L, is only the side AT and EL. It must be between the two congruent angles. And if we can just satisfy that condition, ASA, we can already conclude that these two triangles are congruent without checking the rest of the corresponding parts. That is to say, the two corresponding sides, no need to check, and the other angle here, P and S. Because according to this postulate, if we can just show that there are corresponding parts which are two corresponding angles and one included side, we can already conclude that these two triangles are congruent. So that is ASA. Let's proceed to our second postulate, which is SAS. So it's actually exact opposite of ASA. So SAS means two congruent side and one included angle. Again, this postulate states that if we could just show that the triangles two congruent sides and one included angle, we can already conclude that the two or more triangles are already congruent without checking the rest of the corresponding parts. So let's assume that PA and SE, which are corresponding, are congruent. So having the same measure of 5 cm, so we note that PA is congruent to SE. Another side is AT and EL, which are corresponding, are congruent. So we assign value of the same measure, which is 6 cm. It doesn't matter, no? Basta congruent sila. And the included angle is angle A and E. And these angles must also be congruent. So in that case, we satisfy the definition of this postulate SAS, or side included angle side. So we have side PA and SE, we have the included angle A and E, we have the again another pair of side AT and EL. Again, note that the included angle A and E must be between or in between the two congruent sides. And then we can already conclude that the two triangles ATP is congruent to triangle ELS. And last, have the SSS Congruent Postulate. So according to this postulate, if we could just show that the three corresponding sides of two triangles or more are congruent, we can already conclude congruency between the two triangles. So we have triangle PAT and triangle SEL. all we have to do is to show that the three corresponding sides are congruent, then we can already claim that these two triangles are congruent. So we have the side PA and SE, and we have the side AT and EL, which are corresponding, of course, and we have PP and SL. So if we could just show that the three corresponding sides are congruent, we can already conclude congruency between these two triangles. So all in all, we have three postulates. We have ASA, we have SAS, and we have SSS Congruent Postulates.
And now, let's do the next activity. Pair it up. All you have to do is to pair the triangles which are congruent and identify the postulate involved. And the correct answers are
Wow! You have obtained the Star Warrior badge. Welcome to the next level.
Math Hunters. Let's play a game. Step 1, choose your fighter. Step 2, choose a number. Step 3, inside the numbers are the congruence postulates. All you have to do is to identify all pairs of congruent triangles that belong to the given postulate. Now, choose your fighter.
Power Rangers.
Power Ranger number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now choose your number.
7.
And the postulate is and the correct answers are and now we are on level 2. Choose your fighter.
Naruto.
Naruto responds to number 2. 1, 2.
2.
2. And the postulate corresponds to number 2 is and the correct answers are we are on level 3. Choose your fighter.
Voltes 5.
Voltes 5 corresponds to number 3. 1, 2, 3. Choose your number.
8.
Number 8. And the postulate corresponds to number 8 is and the correct answers are
Wow! You have obtained the Star Warrior badge. Welcome to the next level.
Math Masters. And now, let us summarize our learnings. Come, sing with me. Math Warriors. 3, 2, 1. There was a concept about math congruences, the name of angle, side angle, angle, side angle, angle, side angle, congruence postulate 1. There was a concept about math congruences, the name of side angle, side, side angle, side, side angle, side, congruence postulate 2. There was a concept about math congruences, the name of side 1, 2, 3, side 1, 2, 3, side 1, 2, 3, congruence postulate 3.
Wow! You have obtained the Star Warrior badge. Welcome to the next level.
Math Wizards.
Thank you for watching Grade 8. Congratulations for accomplishing your today's learning task and obtaining Star Warrior badges. Salute, Math Wizards!